Hey everyone, Joe Waxman here, the mediocre astrologer. Man, he's okay. What's up, guys? I hope you're doing well. And in this video, I want to go over the cycles of the natal chart to really deep dive and understand the story of your chart much better. Because after all, um, like I've said before, our birth chart, our natal chart is really a snapshot in a very giant cosmic drama that is unfolding constantly before our eyes, right? There's a really big, massive celestial show happening, right? Where the planets are meeting up, intermingling, aspecting each other, and having this big, big drama that we collectively on Earth are playing out the ripple effects of the vibrational cosmic drama that's happening up there. And our birth chart is just that snapshot. And what I want to do is um, look backward and forward in time to the most relevant cycles that apply to your birth chart, because it will tell a story and you will discover things about your chart that you wouldn't be able to see otherwise, and understand what happened before and where you're going, right? It's important, right? Any important aspects, important planets in your chart, important relationships, you want to know what kind of energy they're carrying, because that's going to tell you a lot about your chart, your individual nature, and where you're headed, your destiny, where you came from, and where you're headed. So, guys, hit that like button, please, if you can. Subscribe if you haven't already. Book a reading with me, macrogoldmachine@yahoo.com, and let's get into it. All right. First things first. Now I have a pretty nifty software that helps me out with these things, but you can do this on your own in whatever astrology software you have, or astrodance .com, astro.com. It's going to be a little more tedious for you. Let me pull up actually um my newer chart, my rectified chart. It's a little better. All right. So what I want to do is look at the various cycles of planets that are relevant. I'm not going to look up all of them, but generally the really personal planets, Sun, Moon cycle is probably the most important. But for me, Sun, Venus is important. Sun, Mercury is important. Venus, Mercury is important, right? Mars, Saturn's important. Um, what else? Um, Sun, Mars, Sun, Saturn, because these are related, right? Mars is in the sign of Sun, so I want to know its relation to Sun, right? Saturn's in the sign of the Sun, so I want to know its relation to Sun, right? Sun and Venus are in the sign of Mercury. Mercury's in the sign of Venus. So all of these are relevant. Rel, Venus, Jupiter, I could look up. Um, Jupiter, Mercury would be pretty obvious. That's going to happen in Taurus um, recently. Some of them are going to be so far back that it probably won't matter much. The outer planets, right? Like I could look, okay, because I have a nice trine between Mars and Neptune. I could look at that, but I already know Mars is going to meet up with um, Neptune in Sag, both before and after, like the last conjunction and the next conjunction. And the conjunctions are the really most important. That's what I'm looking at. But all right, let's get started. So I have a nifty thing here where I can just sort of pull up each one, right? So the first one is Sun Moon. Um, so I can look up the prenatal lunation happened at 7 degrees Gemini. But then I can also look up the next one, and that's going to happen at 6 degrees of Cancer, right? So from 7 degrees Gemini to 6 degrees Cancer, that's going to be a lifelong um, um, key signature for my life. Meaning that, so I'm moving from the eighth house Gemini to ninth house Cancer. And then the ninth house Cancer is going to be very sort of no, the eighth house. So the eighth house Gemini is obviously going to be very occultic, and well, look at the aspect. It's, you can take out all of the aspects opposite Neptune, and so it's very speaking to astrology, various crisis, hardship, or intimacy, eighth house topics, Gemini, but a lot of astrology. But ninth house Cancer, still going to relate somewhat to the astrology because of the water influence being ninth house square, trying the ascendant, north node, right? Uranus. But there's a lot more sort of heart, Cancer, learning to take care, learning to be more Cancerian, right? Heartfelt, family oriented, taking care of others. Venus is here, so it's like very sweet. Plus, Cancer in the ninth house is sort of like the elevated heart, the spiritual heart, right? Like a spiritual theme, ninth house, right? So philosophy, learning to be more loving and caring, really. And that is a theme that has come up for me prominently. You can look to the secondary progression. I'm still in the secondary progression lunation phase where Cancer is still dominant. The next one will be in Leo. But this is a key signature that will be with me throughout my life, learning how to be more ninth house Cancerian with Venus here, right? Um, and also the points are going to be sensitive. You want to take note of the points. So like 6 degrees Cancer, 7 degrees Gemini. These are important points, right? If there's like a new moon or an eclipse or a planet stationing or something, that's going to activate that topic for you, right? We can look at some other ones. Let's look at Sun, Venus. So just want to make sure I get the right ones. Okay. Prenatal one. That was Virgo, right? But that was a while ago. So that, look at the date. That was August 27th, 1975. I'm closing out that cycle because you can see here that my my natal Sun and Venus are almost about to become conjunct. So this one is relevant. I'm almost at this point. So 27 degrees Gemini is the Venus Cazimi. For me, that would be the next one. So that's going to be relevant to me as a conjunction because it's the closest one. So you want to pay attention to the closest aspects, right? We can look at Sun Mercury because that's also a relevant topic. So yeah. So the last one was May 20th. That happened at the anaretic degree of Taurus, right? So yeah, it's that's probably not that's not ideal, but it's really baking in this Mercury Taurus influence that I have, right? Really nailing it down because of that. And then we look at the next one, and that's also relevant. And that's a Cancer again, right? So we skipped over Gemini, moving towards Cancer, right? So then we have the Sun, Moon, and then Sun, Mercury, both relevant to me, relevant to everyone, because Mercury and Venus, these are going to be important personal planets for everyone. But 23 degrees Cancer. And if you're familiar with your conjunctions, you might see themes come up, right? I know that Mars and Saturn are also conjunct in Cancer, but let's look at Mercury, Venus. So Mercury, Venus also happened at 27 degrees Taurus, which is close to the Sun Mercury conjunction, close to my natal Mercury. At least this one's stronger. This one, because Mercury's Venus is in domicile, right? So artistic, aesthetic, voice things. I used to be a singer. This is a past one. I used to be an artist, a singer. You can see the strong Taurian influence there. And then we can look to the next one. That's happening in Leo. And that's very relevant because my secondary progressed planets are all moved. That's like a year away. My secondary progressed sun is at 0 degrees Leo right now over my Saturn, but this is going to happen very shortly. So that's relevant. And in my secondary progressed um, cycles, right? And Mercury Venus is a great combination, especially, and it's very relevant for me. I have the mutual reception here. So that's going to be a significant point, and it's exactly square the nodes. So you want to take note of what kind of aspects it's making as well, right? And it's over 1 degree from my natal Mars, my ascendant Lord. So that's going to be a very significant point for me. Then we can go to the Mars Saturn one. That, and I showed previously the devastating nature of that one. That was at 27 degrees Cancer, and that related to my brother being hit by a train, right? Saturn's ruling the third. You know, Mars is often vehicles. Saturn is very structural. Saturn's also ruling the fourth, and I also spoke about how this points to my family history, difficult family history, tragic family history. Yeah. So you look at the next one, but that's not, the next one's not going to be relevant because it's so far away, right? June 4th, 1978. But that would be in Leo, 25 degrees, right? But the Cancer one is still resonating. That's a ways away. That's not going to be relevant, right? So it's important to understand where the which aspects are important, which conjunctions are important, post or pre or post natal, right? What else? You can also look up this one thing I like doing. So the sun, all right, so look up the sunrise of your chart, the sunrise of that morning. So it'll obviously be in the same sign, but the ascendant will be conjunct the sun. And look, so no, 1978. Oh, my birthday. Why is it doing it? All right, let me do this one. Sorry about that. Yeah, I don't know how to quickly get it to. All right, well, okay. Okay, so this is what the sunrise of the day I was born looked like. June 5th, sunrise. The ascendant is conjunct the sun, Venus. But what's relevant is the moon. The moon's the only planet that's going to be moving in a different, potentially different sign, but degree definitely. So what you want to look for, if you do look at the sunrise and see if the moon was in a previous sign, or look at the next sunrise and see if the moon went into another sign. And mine's solidly in Virgo in both, so it really doesn't matter. Yeah, I'm not sure about the part of fortune here, but I'm just ignoring that. But that would be relevant if your moon changed sign, either the sunrise that you were born or the next sunrise, right? There would be some significance to that as far as your life is concerned. So let's see. I think those are the relevant the nodes. Yeah, that's another one. Let me look at that. Like for me, um, the square was so yeah, it happened one day after I was born. You can already see it in my natal chart, but that's very relevant. June 6th, and then Mars conjunct. You can look, the conjunction of the North Node. Uh, That's going to happen at 3 degrees Scorpio. So that's actually very relevant because it's exactly at the degree of my Uranus and within 1 degree of my um, rectified ascendant, 4 degrees Scorpio. So that's pretty relevant, right? Especially because of Mars is already an aspect to the nodes. So, and then you can look at it's conjunct the south node just to sort of um, understand what happened before. So it's at 27 degrees Taurus. Square is 11. North node is at 3. Um, Another interesting thing is now this aspect isn't as relevant, but I did notice something interesting with it. Um, okay, so this is the next aspect of Mercury and Mars, but if we looked at the previous one, it oh, is that true? Oh yeah, 19 degrees. Oh, I got it wrong. I was looking at a different thing. Yeah, 19 degrees Scorpio. Okay. Oh, Mars Jupiter is what I was wanting to pull up. So that happened at 19 degrees Aries. So my point is that when this eclipse happens, it's actually going to activate Mars in relation to Jupiter. And I've been applying square between Mars and Jupiter. And that's actually really good. Even though it's a square, Mars is my ascendant lord, but it's my out-of-sect malefic. So it's sort of like suggesting that I'm the cause of difficulties in my life and bad behavior. But Jupiter, being in a superior square applying to Mars, is making my Mars behave better. Jupiter's sort of watching over it and protecting my Mars, making sure it behaves well, right? So that's good. But this is going to activate this eclipse. See, this is what I was saying about the points. Even though this happened a while ago, the Mars and Jupiter remember. They have a resonance. They remember this point. They're like, oh yeah, remember when we met up at 19 degrees Aries? Yeah, that was a good time, right? Mars is very strong in Aries. Jupiter, Mars in Aries. This is like a very physical combination. Jupiter's like really expanding Mars. Like, oh yeah, we were very competitive. We worked out together. We had a lot of fun, right? Because Mars is very strong here. Jupiter's just expanding it, supporting it, right? Um, but yeah, the eclipse, that's going to activate this Mars Jupiter conjunction. And it's not a bad conjunction because especially the relationship that I have with Jupiter and Mars, Jupiter, right? So in a superior square to Mars applying. So that's going to activate that, and that's good. I think it'll be very benefic for me as far as it's also going to not to the degree, but complete my grand fire trine. But so yeah, so you can I'm not going to go over any more aspects on my chart, but let's look at a random chart here, um, and look at some significant um, um, let's go to J.K. Rowling. Some significant transits that happened for her. Uh, let's see. So obviously Moon is going to quickly move over all of these. Um, we could do we could do Mercury, Venus, see where they line up. That'll happen not too far. 65. So we got to go back to right around her birth year. We want to find the one right after her birthday. July 21st, so that right before. Okay, so actually it's a separating one because it happened right before her birthday. and that was in Leo. Very relevant for a creative writer, right? She's carrying around this energy, this Venus, Mercury. Yeah, they moved to Virgo where Mercury is stronger, but they were in Leo where it's neutral dignity for both, but very creative, right? And then we can look at the next one. That happened right before her birth, 10 days. So that's the most relevant conjunction. But the next one will be in Aquarius with the sun. So that's not as relevant, but um let's see here. We could see, okay, Sun, Mercury, especially because she's a writer. No, is that right? No, sorry. So this one. My apologies. Yeah, so it occurred in Gemini with the North Node. And that's very close to an eclipse. So that's actually pretty strong with Jupiter. Jupiter is not great in Gemini, but it definitely helps with writing, and it definitely helps um benefit, it brings positive things wherever it is. So it's like really excellent for writing with the North Node here. There's basically an eclipse or a full moon eclipse, just about, right? Almost exactly. So that's really strong for her, right? It shows a very strong turning point, and it's relevant for the like a world-class writer, a billionaire writer. It's in her fourth house, so something, this conjunction probably indicates a early writing talent that she had, or that something happened early on in her life, or the carryover from past life, if you want to go that direction. Um, Perhaps she learned it from her family, but excellent, right? Really dignified. Jupiter, North Node, Mercury, really strong. And then we can look at the next one after her birth, where she's headed to. Leo, also very creative, very good for writing. You see a lot of writers with strong Leo placements. Okay. And then let's do the same with Venus because it's relevant. So that was in Aries where Sun was strong. Mercury's pretty close by. That was very focused Sun conjunct Venus, which is good. Um, because Venus can detract the energy from the sun. It can have the sun lose its way if the sun's not strong. You can see the next one. So that would be in Aquarius, right? Neither is too relevant because, yeah, but it's just interesting to take note. The sun Venus relationship is the Aries to Aquarius. It's in the middle somewhere. Um, Saturn would be an important planet to look at the conjunctions because it's the ascendant lord. So we could see we could do Sun Saturn. That happened in February. Uh, 7 degrees Pisces. Mercury's here. That's not great. This is more describing her core identity, her physicality. Um, It's in the second house, which is interesting considering how rich she got. Rich she is. And yeah. Mm, Part of fortune is here. I don't know if that's relevant, but yeah, it's in the same sign as her natal Saturn, opposite Venus, natal Venus. So Venus is actually would be dignifying um this aspect by opposition because Venus is exalted here. So that's interesting. Mercury, on the other hand, um, pretty much mutual reception between Venus and Mercury here by exaltation. Yeah. So the next one's happening in Pisces. Interesting. Yeah, of course, because Saturn's in Pisces. Not that interesting. We should expect that. But anyway, yeah. But it's opposite her Virgo stellium. So what's really interesting is, yeah, she's a very creative writer. Um, and Saturn's her ascendant lord, so Saturn in Pisces. So the sun obviously is going to meet up in Pisces. Chiron for the strangeness, the weirdness, the creativity of Harry Potter, right? Chiron in Pisces, highly creative, right? But this opposition also can explain a lot of um, what um, what kind of themes J.K. Rowling's going to deal with in her life, and she has a lot of opposition. She's always like, like fighting against her ideologies. Some people hate her for it. I think she's right about protecting kids from this ridiculous trans ideology, but I'm not going to get into it. But you can see like the powerful so ascendant Lord Sun, Chiron, and then Uranus, Pluto at 17 degrees um Virgo, or in her chart, in her natal chart, it's 12 and 14, but still there's this very strong oppositional relationship between Virgo and Pisces, right? Um, and the sort of stance that she lands on is much more Virgo-ish, conservative, right? Um, yeah. What else would be relevant? Oh, her moon. That's a big one. So this would be the last lunation. So 25 degrees Cancer. Yeah, so she's a Leo sun, but she's carrying Cancerian vibes where the moon is very strong. It is a night chart, so that actually is relevant, right? Because moon in Virgo is her sect light. It's her dominant luminary. It, and it is conjunct Pluto, Uranus, Venus, and Mercury. But yeah, it started in Cancer in the sixth house. The sixth house is great for writing. Jupiter's here, Mars also here. And if you think about the themes of Harry Potter, definitely a Cancerian theme, right? Hugely, hugely, because of the whole magical element. The magic is water. What magic is a water element, right? So with Mars, Jupiter, Mars is actually, obviously not very dignified in Cancer, but Jupiter is. So Jupiter is sort of leading the way here, and Moon is as well. And this is actually because Jupiter, Moon in Cancer is incredibly um uh wonderful combination. Like I don't know how else to put it. Like whenever artists have Moon and Jupiter in Cancer, people love them. People absolutely love them. I'm going to tell you who has it. Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Kurt Cobain, right? And so she has her lunation in Cancer with Moon, Sun, Jupiter, Mars. That's very beloved and very much describes Harry Potter, right? Sixth house, because sixth house is very academic. Sixth house lends itself to writing very often, because of the daily academic, like nose to the grindstone, getting to work and all that, right? Venus is in Gemini, right? Um, so that's absolutely relevant. And let's look at the next one. Next one's Leo. So yeah, I mean that also makes sense. A lot of sense for a writer. Cancer, Leo, writing about witches and magic, right? And then Jupiter and Mars are pretty much conjunct in Cancer. That's really interesting as well. Still points to that, you know, the magical theme, the mystical, magical, right? Harry Potter world, sixth house, writing about it, right? And then Venus, Mercury, Sun, Moon, very much very creative, right? Uh, yeah. So that's it's important to understand, like, what was the last lunation? What's the next lunation? Where are you at in that cycle? Um, and she's just starting out, really. Even though it's the last, even though it started in Cancer, the sun's now already in Leo, in her natal chart, moon's in Virgo, but they'll meet up again in Leo, late Leo. So that's it's really it's like bookends, right? Like where did it start? Where's it ending? Where are you at in that book, right? This is incredibly relevant. Right? Um, we could see like, okay, where's the moon going to meet Saturn? Well, I mean, it's definitely in Pisces, so we don't really need to do that. We could look at many other aspects as well, but those seem to be the main relevant ones. This Jupiter would be an important one because it's the dispositor of the ascendant lord. Um, so, but Jupiter to Saturn is very generational. We could do Sun Jupiter. Let's try that. So that happened pretty recently, in fact. I don't mean recently before she was born, and that's at 13 degrees Cancer. Right. So also, yeah, very relevant, very uh relating to the themes of her work. The next one will be in Leo. Yeah, so makes sense. Right. I mean, Jupiter moves one sign per year anyway, so you're always going to have that kind of cyclical manifestation of that. Mercury is going to be a big one because Virgo, um, Jupiter, Pisces, Saturn, Sun, Moon. I think that's all of them, all the really relevant ones for J.K. Rowling. We can let's do one more. Let's do one more random chart. Joan Rivers, late comedian. Uh, Joan Rivers was great. They killed her. I believe they killed her. You can believe whatever you want, but I'm not going to get into that. We'll just look at let's do Sun Moon, because the Sun Moon, it very rarely will it be two in the same sign. It's almost always going to be you started in a different one than your sun sign, or you're ending in a different one than your sun sign. For me, I'm ending in a different one than my sun sign, moving towards Cancer, coming from Gemini. Oh gosh. Let's just want to get to I'm sorry, I don't there's probably a better way to get to the approximate date, but I'm just I don't know why. Here we go. Let's just write in. I don't know why. All right, so all right, sun. Definitely not the best way to do it, but okay. Sun, moon, Taurus. So her last lunation was in Taurus, 29th degree of Taurus. And interesting. It's right at the anaretic degree. Venus is here though. Um, dignifying the sign of Taurus. It's her second house. She spoke for a living. I don't know if that's relevant. Um, she's a Gemini, very close to my sun. And so we'll look at the next one. So the next one was also in Gemini, 27 degrees Gemini with Mars, Venus. Wow, very passionate. Chiron, Mercury. So yeah, um, dignified by Mercury, but the whole Gemini stellium. Um, passionate, intense, aggressive, loud, vocal, but very smart, very sharp, probably hilarious. I mean, well, she was hilarious. A lot of Gemini here. But Venus and Mercury are conjunct in her natal chart, so that we don't need. We could look at when they were conjunct in the past, but they so what the last cycle was. Um, why is it do I did the wrong thing? Sun conjunct moon. I'm gonna have to go back to that. You just want to make sure you're getting the right date. So June 8th, 1933 was conjunct, right, and March. So it conjuncted in Venus. So this is a very creative, like musical or artistic combination. You know, you see this a lot in musicians. But then the next one would be in Gemini, where she has hers natally. Oh, they meet up. They actually exact in Cancer, which is really interesting. They're almost exact. So, interesting. But yeah, that would have been yeah, just like hours after she was born. June 8th, same date. Let's go back to the sun moon because I didn't do that right. May 24. So this was the prenatal moon. Yeah, it was in Gemini, my bad. May 24th, 1933. Then the next one would have been June 22nd. So this one is in Gemini with uh Venus, Mercury's in Taurus. The next one would be June 22nd, and that's at 1 degree Cancer. So she's moving from Gemini to Cancer as far as her lunar cycles are concerned, lunation. And so moon is strong here, but it's hidden, but it's a new moon, but it's strong. So it's Cancer. So she's that's interesting. It's also right on her IC, basically by 1 degree. In Cancer. Hmm, interesting. Learning how to be a mother, learning how to be more heart-centered, caring, loving at home as a motherly figure. So that's where she was headed. Um, now Mercury, Sun, Mercury would be a relevant one for her. Yeah, that's 6 Gemini with Venus in Gemini as well. Um, but let's see what the next one was or will be. A Leo. Also very relevant for her life. You know, fifth house Leo. She was a performer, Obviously a comedian, but she eventually went on to have her own show. Not through some that there was some struggles, but she was a talk show host and we see that in the Sixth House, but like entertainment, right? So from Gemini to Leo, that's pretty cool. They're both very relevant. Um, you can check out Venus. I want to make sure I'm getting the closest conjunctions. So the last conjunction was in Taurus. Uh, Second house. It's quite good for money, I would think. Sure. But it's kind of far removed. It's definitely months before, but I mean still relevant, good to know. The next one is in Aquarius, and that's much further away. That's in 1934. Um, yeah. So that last conjunction with the Sun and Venus was in Taurus, and that's Venus was strong. So good for her speaking voice, good for money, good for finances, Sun Venus combinations. Moving towards Aquarius, 11th house, but that's far away, right? But the relevant one, the relevant conjunction is what you want to pay attention to. Mars would be relevant for her because it's her ascendant lord. Um, Mars and Jupiter are just about to be conjunct, so we could look at that cycle. These are all different cycles, right? And we were born somewhere in the cycle, right? Usually, like, well, not usually, always, somewhere in the cycle. And it could be um June 4th. So that's very close. 14 degrees Virgo. Jupiter's not excellent here, but really good for the regularity of, like, being a talk show host. Mars is her ascendant lord, conjunct Jupiter. So that's quite good. That's quite strong for sixth house topics, especially Virgo. Neptune also. South node, right? South node shows a detachment, shows that she's probably moving away from that. She could have some success and familiarity with it, but she's moving towards Pisces, 12th house, which, I mean, considering her final, she died, she died, she wasn't young, first of all. She was not young, but she could have lived longer. Let's put it that. But let's look at the next one. And this is a ways away. This one's not really relevant to her because it's so far away. But that would be in Cancer, where Jupiter's, oh no, Scorpio. I'm sorry, Scorpio, where Mars is from. But relevant also, Scorpio. I mean, it's her ascendant lord. Um, Scorpio's death, but Mars does well in Scorpio. Anyway, I'm not sure if that one plays into her life or not. Probably not as much. So Mars, so we can look at Mars Sun. Mars conjunct Sun. That happened in Aquarius a ways before she was born. But 11th house, Aquarius, friends, networks, community. Um, and Mars is her ascendant lord, so that's going to be important. And then the next one would be in Aries, first house, and that's happening like a year after she was born. So um they're not that close, but they're square. So that actually is relevant because um and that's probably, I'm not sure which one's moving faster, but we'd have to see. It's applying. We'll just check real quick. It's probably separating Sun, Mars. It's applying. So that's very relevant, in fact, right? So she's at the square. Um Not sure if it's the opening or closing square. Well, yeah, it's a little confusing. It's a square anyway. Um, and it's applying. Mars is ruling the fifth house. I'm not going to interpret it right now. My brain's a little bit fried to get into that, but you can see that the from Aquarius to Aries and then squaring here. I mean, it gets a little abstract. Like, how are you supposed to really make sense of that? These are very big cycles, but it's important to understand where you are in the cycle anyway. Um, what else would be relevant? I don't know. I think you get the idea. I don't think I need to go through each and every one, but you could, like, if you want to get like um an idea of what's happening, you can just sort of go day by day and sort of fast forward. So yeah, Mars, so the sun is separating now, but it was very close to being exact. It says it's applying, but it's actually, it seems like it's separating. It seems like it went exact just a few days before. So, I mean, that makes more sense to me because it's not here, it's separating. Yeah. Anyway, I wonder if Mars speeds up. Probably not. Anyway, um, yeah, guys, that's it for this um video. The point was to understand the most relevant aspects in your chart and see when they perfected, right? Before you were born, after you were born, where you're going, where you came from. Look at all the different cycles and understand your chart in a much deeper, big picture kind of way, right? Throughout time. And that'll really, really help you understand the story of your life, right? This is a very important understanding, I believe. So guys, that's it for this one. I hope you enjoyed it. Please press the like button if you can. Subscribe if you have not already. Book a reading with me. I would love to give you a reading. Just email me, macrogoldmachine@yahoo.com. Um, and that's pretty much it for now. Um, Mediocre astrologer signing off. He's okay. Guys, laugh it off, take a victory laugh, win before you win, all that good stuff. And I will see you again soon.